well. And Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. And this is Faraz Khan. I hope and pray that your Ramadan's going well and you're having a wonderful time. I know the first few days it takes time to get used to, but we're all getting there. We're all going through the same fasting, obedience to Allah, a training for all of us and for our families, inshallah. So, may Allah reward you for your patience and for your fasting, inshallah. A few minutes that I had, I wanted to talk about Ramadan and specifically the Book of Allah, Quran, and a few tips, inshallah, on how to improve our understanding of the Quran and our families, understanding of the Quran. So, inshallah, I will start as in terms of education of our children and in terms of our own training. We read a lot of Quran in Arabic. That's a good thing, and we also um, memorize a lot of the Quran or some of the Quran from the 30th juz, right? From Juz Amma. And some of these, what's called Qisar Surah, the small surahs, right? So, like Surah Al Asr, Surah Al Nas, Surah Al Falaq. And many times when you have people who are younger, right, at a certain age, you're able to memorize more. And that is certainly a plus thing. So, this is certainly a good thing on Islamic schools, on the weekend schools, or even in Islamic schools, if children memorize a lot of short surahs, even juz or the whole Quran. At a young age, it's really good to memorize these short surahs because many times what we find is adults, most of the surahs that they only know from their childhood, learning these surahs. So I would encourage adults, right? This is number one, as you have 27 or 26 other days of fasting, to take some time and start memorizing. And you would say, well, I can't memorize and I'm getting old, and or my memory muscles are not that good, and I'm terrible at memorizing things. We were talking about book of Allah. Allah says, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. We have made this Quran easy for to remember. Is there anyone who would take that? Is there anyone who's going to, attempt to try? So we have to try, inshallah. And so I would say, practice, make those memory muscles stronger, right? Just like even in old age, you were exercising because you want physically to be active. And so brain is the same way. Let's keep on memorizing, inshallah. And I would say if you could add one or two short surahs, you would accomplish much this Ramadan. You will feel special because this Ramadan would mean that you've gained more surahs for you to recite during your prayer. So that's number one. Inshallah, if, as an adult, as a young child, try to memorize one surah, two surahs, inshallah, extra this Ramadan, and make it a goal. Number two. So when we're looking at short surahs for children, it's very good. As a teacher, as an instructor, as somebody who teaches at a weekend Islamic school and see many children memorizing, we also tend to do is we give them translation of the 30th juz. We give them translation of all the Makki surahs, right? These small surahs that are Makki surahs. And what do Makki surahs deal with? Right? I'm going to ask you for a while. What do you think are concepts in the Makki surah, especially in the 30th juz at the end? Suratul Masad, right? Tabbat yada abi lahab. Suratul Fil, alam tara kayfa fa'ala rabbuka bi ashabil fil. Surah at-takathur, alhaakum at-takathur. And if you look at these surahs, right, the concept that are like the punishment, or like how the kuffar has disobeyed Allah, so the punishment's coming, or the punishment of Allah is severe, or how things will be on the day of judgment, right? Al-Hakum and Al-Qari'ah, Al-Qari'ah, right? So these are the surahs. As an instructor, as an educational model or methodology, I would say, we want to introduce to younger children, I would say, like 7, 8, 9, 10, right? Translation or meaning of the Quran better. You want to give them the meaning and not word to word translation. If you're going to teach or educate your children, you would say, well, we need to teach our children about the Quran, right? The more appropriate passages from the Quran is actually at the beginning of the Quran. Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al-Fatiha. Let them read the Surah Al-Baqarah and the stories in it. The story of Musa alayhi salam, the story of Ibrahim alayhi salam, the story of Cain and Abel, the story Habil and Qabil, the story of the angels and how this all started, in terms of Iblis and the role that he played. Talut and Jalut, the story of those people, right? So those are the stories, or those are the translation I would say I would recommend for children or for younger age. They're not adolescents, right? Muslims, inshallah, to have to go through that section at the beginning, translation, meaning, and I wouldn't prefer them to as a methodology to not just because what we do is we memorize the short surahs or have them memorize the short surahs, and then we have them learn the translation of it word by word, and then they look at the Quran, right? And they see it, and I get these responses from students as well. And Quran only talks about fire, hell, how bad it's going to be for people, but day of judgment, punishment. You see, so those themes, right? There is a place for it. There's a methodology to teach, and I again would say that teaching the meaning from the front, so to gain an understanding what is coming at the end, is the result of not listening to Allah. At what is at the beginning is important to learn. So that is tip number 2, inshallah. And I would say, let them read the Quran again, but read Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Al Imran, Surah Al-Ma'idah, Surah Al-Nisa. Those are more appropriate chapters for translation and for our children to learn Quran. Okay? Also, when we teach about the Quran, we should always tell them about the 3 themes, right? The 3 main points that Quran has. And what are these 3 themes? Everyone should be very clear on what the Quran is talking about. And if you read it, you will understand it. But you need to give them the bigger picture. Okay, what is the bigger picture? First of all, the most important concept in Islam and in our deen. These are the 3 most important pillars, you could say, or concepts. Arkanul Iman, these are the ones that are also mentioned. Right? First and foremost, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his noble book, has a majority of time that is allotted to the session, or I would say to these sections in the Quran on Tawheed, on learning who is Allah, learning the Sunnah of Allah, the methodology, the way, the principles that Allah has put in this world. If you're truthful and honest, you will have a good place in the hereafter. If you do hard work in this life, you will gain in this life. And if you do hard work for hereafter, you also have the hard work in, you will see the results, inshallah. Excuse me. So we have to understand the theme. And then what are the 3 main themes in the Quran? 1, Tawheed, the divine, benevolence. Allah is Ghafoor, Rahim, Kareem, the 99 names of Allah, how Allah has been merciful, how Allah guides us, how Allah forgives us, how Allah has put this life and world together for us to enjoy, to benefit from it. We're only here for a short time, and Allah is testing. So knowing who is Allah, and this is really the most important and the greatest ayah in the Quran. If you look at it, the Prophet ﷺ told us is Ayatul Kursi. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. Right? Ayatul Kursi is actually a composition of 10 sentences. All 10 of these sentences in one ayah talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, so it's the most important concept. The second most important concept that we have in the Quran is Risala, or messengers, and the message that was conveyed. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is not the first prophet of Islam. He is the last prophet of Islam, and many prophets before and their struggles are mentioned in this book. So when we read their struggles, we can come to understand Muslims are just not people by their name or a tribe or a culture or ethnicity or a language or people of a land, right? Muslims are people who submit to Allah. They obey Allah. So the difference between them and anybody else, right, is not that they belong to a certain lineage, but they are Muslims because they follow the guidance, and the guidance has come to us in the form of Quran. So it is important for us to recognize that. So all of the prophets taught the same message, and that is risala, that is belief in what the messengers have taught. The Prophet Muhammad is the last of the messengers, and so he has come with a message as well in the form of Quran. And that is the reason why, brothers and sisters, if you read the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah after Al-Fatiha, Surah Al-Baqarah and Surah Al-Imran, and so on and so forth, it actually starts with Bani Israel. And then in Surah Al Imran, it's Ya Ahl al Kitab, O people of the book, O children of Israel, or people of the book. O people of the book, mostly for Christians, children of Israel, meaning children of Yaqub alayhi salam, Jacob. He's also known as Israel. That's his name, Yaqub alayhi salam, who's the son of Ishaq alayhi salam, who's the son of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So these are all great prophets. The reason why Al-Quran, and one of the reasons I would say, it starts with the story of Yaqub and children of Israel, is because the Quran is connected to these other scriptures and books and revelation and messages and the messengers that came before. So we're continuous, like in the chain of guidance that Allah provided, right? It's not an isolated event. So I will be concluding in a few minutes, inshallah. So the Risala, understanding the messengers and their struggle is very important. This is not the first time the Prophet has struggled against his people, or even Muslims who give dawah. It's not the first time. This is good and bad. The struggle between them has been going on forever. The last one that we should understand, and when you're listening to Taraweeh prayer, and even if you don't understand anything, you could gain an insight, because if you know the topic or the three themes, you could say, if it's talking about Ghafur Rahim, it's talking about the Allah's Tawheed. If it's talking about Musa and Yusuf and Ibrahim, right? It's talking about alayhi salam. It's talking about the Risala, the message and the messengers. So the second theme, so the second topic. You have a better understanding of what you're listening to. And then the last one is Al-Akhirah, the hereafter, or the unseen, the Alimul Ghaib, right? That what we will experience, what we'll go through. Quran is a book that explains to us, and all the scriptures, the Bible, the Torah, the Zabur that was revealed, and the Suhuf Ibrahim wa Musa, all of them, they explain to us. It's not because they have some sort of intellectual science or political science or economic secrets or evolutionary secrets that we are going to gain from it, or market analysis, right? It talks about the utmost important thing, and that thing nobody knows except Allah, and He has revealed to the angels and messengers, right, those whom He have informed. And that is about the concept of the unseen that will happen in the hereafter. People of Jahannam, people of Jannah, Yawmul Qiyamah, the day of long standing. That's why it's called Qiyamah, Qiyamat. The day of long standing, Qama, is to stand. So that is the concept that's the most important in our deen, all these three concepts. And that is the reason why Quran is based on these three topics. If you look at it, any ayah that you read, it will either be about Tawheed or Shirk, which is the opposite of it. It will be about the Risala, right, messengers, or those people who rejected, like the Qawm Ad, Qawm Thamud, right? Qawm Fir'aun, those people who rejected the message of the prophets. And the last one is about Al-Akhirah, or the divine, the unseen aspect of the life in the hereafter, that we, Jannah and Jahannam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He describes to us. So these are some of the things that I wanted to mention to you, inshallah. I wish you well, and I hope that you have the best Ramadan of your life. Memorize some Quran, so don't neglect that. Make it a priority, a goal. Make sure that your children are reading the Quran, from the beginning as well, so they have an understanding of the Quran and the three concepts that we talked about: Tawheed, Risala, and Akhirah. Inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you so much, and wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.